So maybe for the people who don't know Wyatt Miller, can you just briefly like give people introduction? You're a pro windsurfer and you're working for Slingshot, but yeah, give us maybe a little pre intro.
So, yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Berkeley, California, which is like San Francisco, and grew up windsurfing there I was windsurfing when I was a little grom, like 10, 11 years old. My dad did it, so he got me into it. And yeah, when I was in college, got sponsored by a few companies and started doing all the US contests. And and then Hood River is where Slingshot's based. So that's in Oregon, the state above California. And it's the biggest, like one of the second or third biggest rivers in the US, the biggest one in the West Coast. And we windsurf back and forth across the river, which is awesome because the wind and the water are always going opposite directions. So staying upwind is super easy. And yeah, so I was pro windsurfer for super long time. And then I started testing the windsurf foil gear for Tony Lagos, who's one of the co-owners of the company. And really just liked the wind foiling because all of a sudden it would be like 5.5, 5.0 day with 2-foot chop, and all of a sudden I can do back loops, and I love doing back loops. It's like one of my favorite tricks in windsurfing. And the foil just made it so that instead of having to go to the coast or that super special crazy windy day, now on an average day I could do back loops, which was super fun. So I tested the wind foil stuff for him for 2 or 3 years, and then they hired me as brand manager for windsurfing, and that was really great because we were kind of leading the charge in maneuver-oriented foiling. Kind of back then, windsurf foiling was either, it was all big race stuff, or it was Slingshot, which was about cruising, riding swell, carved 360s, and all that stuff. And so we got to take the charge in that whole category, which was really, really fun. And then Wing came out, and I mean, Wing has been shocking everybody since the absolute beginning. Like I took over as brand manager for Wing also, and the first V1 wings are coming out, and the sales guys are freaking out. They're like, I don't understand this. I've never seen anything like it. Like, these things are selling out and back ordered, and no one's ever actually seen one or touched one ever. Like, they're selling them off of like a little line drawing PDF on a hype sheet, and people are just buying them hands over fists. It's like, it didn't make any sense. And it was a pretty auspicious start to wing foiling there. But yeah, so now I have a windsurfing resort, and now it's a wing resort also down here in Baja, Mexico. So I can drive from where Slingshot's headquarter is in Hood River, and it takes me about 48 hours of driving all the way down to the tip of the Baja Peninsula to where my resort is in La Ventana. And we open up every November and run all winter long, all the way till May. And then I cruise back up again and hopefully go to the dealer meetings in Europe. That's usually the plan for the spring, but that hasn't happened recently with the COVID. And it was super nice to be able to drive back and forth.
Nice. Wow. So I have like a million questions now to that quick overview. So maybe let's start in the beginnings, like when you were a little groom growing up in California. Like you mentioned a couple of US competitions. Like what competitions did you attend?
Yeah, so we used to have King of the Bay was one in Third Avenue, and
That's freestyle.
It would all be freestyle. So yeah, I
Yeah.
did all freestyle. And basically, when I was a little grom growing up in the Bay, my best friend was Rob Warwick, who also became one of the top US freestyle guys. And so, it was the whole time growing up, it was like, anything you can do, I can do better. And we would just kind of leapfrog each other. I got a super funny story about learning to loop in that, basically I was 16 or 17 and Rob Warwick, we'd been training together, and he went to the gorge for the first time. And I knew he was coming back in like 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, he's gone to the gorge. He's going to come back. He's going to know how to loop. And I haven't learned anything. I've just been stuck here teaching kids windsurf camps. And so I went out and started throwing myself over the handlebars a few times, and then tried a few loops, and like eventually got it that day. And the owner of the local shop had seen me doing it. And when Rob got back to town the next week, he went into the shop, and the owner's like, hey, I seen Wyatt. He was he was looping out there. And Rob's like, did he land it? And the guy's like, yeah, he landed it. And Rob's like, I'm not working today. And like goes straight out to the beach and like, you know, throws himself over the front 50 times and learns how to do it. And then comes back and we meet each other. And he's like, I heard you learned how to loop. And I'm like, yeah, yesterday. And he's like, well, I did too. You know, so it was like growing up was that. And then around that same time, we got to know Tyson Poor and Whit Poor, who are a couple of the best freestyle guys in the US. And then the four of us would travel to Bonaire or go spend 6 months in Venezuela and Margarita training with those guys. And we would just constantly push each other. So I had a really good team of buddies who were all really good at windsurfing. And I mean, without that level of one guy learning something and the other three guys following and figuring it out, you know, you just really can progress a lot faster than if you're out there sailing by yourself.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you have like a really competitive peer group and also like a talented peer group, yeah, it's such a big difference. That's why I'm so bad, you know, because all my peers are pretty bad. Shout out to everybody I'm surfing with. No, just kidding. Get down.